The first recorded encounter between Vikings and Native Americans is a remarkable event that occurred around the year 1000 AD, illustrating an early moment of contact between European explorers and the indigenous peoples of North America. This event primarily documented in the Icelandic sagas, which are primary sources for much of what we know about the Norse explorations to the west. These sagas include Saga of the Greenlanders and the Saga of Eric the Red, both of which provide detailed, albeit sometimes contradictory accounts of these voyages. The Norse expansion into North Atlantic was driven by a combination of exploration, trade, and the search for new lands suitable for settlement. The Norse, originating from Scandinavia, had already established settlements in Iceland and Greenland by the 10th century. Greenland, settled by Eric the Red, became a stepping stone for further explorations west. Leif Erikson, the son of Eric the Red, is credited with leading the first Norse expedition to North America. According to the sagas, Leif heard stories from an Icelandic trader named Bjarni Hejolofsson, who was sighted land to the west of Greenland but did not go ashore. Intrigued by these tales, Leif decided to explore these lands himself. Around the year 1000 AD, he set sail from Greenland and eventually reached a place called Vinland, which is believed to be a part of modern-day Newfoundland, Canada. The land of Vinland. The name Vinland translates to wineland or pasture land, depending on the interpretation. The sagas describe Vinland as a land of abundant resources with lush pastures, plentiful game, and notably wild grapes. The exact location of Vinland has been subject of much scholarly debate, but archaeological site at Les Aux Meadows in Newfoundland is widely accepted as evidence of a Norse presence in North America. Initial contact with Native Americans. The sagas refer to the indigenous people encountered by the Norse as Skrælings. This term is somewhat ambiguous, but is likely refers to the ancestors of the Beothuk people who were indigenous to Newfoundland. The initial interactions between the Norse and Skrælings was a mix of curiosity, trade, and conflict. According to the sagas, the first encounters were relatively peaceful. The Norse and the Skrælings traded goods such as furs and woven textiles. One saga recounts how the Skrælings were particularly fascinated by red cloth, which the Norse used as a trading item. However, these peaceful exchanges did not last long, as cultural misunderstandings and competition for resources led to tensions and eventual hostilities. Trade and tensions. Trade between the Norse and the Skrælings included an exchange of various goods. The Norse offered items such as red cloth, which seemed to hold significant value to the Skrælings. In return, the Norse received furs and other local commodities. These exchanges provided mutual benefits initially, but also set the stage for conflict. The sagas describe several instances where misunderstandings and differing cultural practices led to tension. For example, one story tells of the Skrælings taking a Norse weapon during a trade which the Norse viewed as theft. The Skrælings, on the other hand, might not have understood the Norse concept of property and trade agreements in the same way. Outbreak of hostilities. The peaceful trade eventually gave way to violence. The sagas describe several skirmishes between the Norse and the Skrælings. One notable incident involved a misunderstanding over red cloth, leading to a fight that resulted in casualties on both sides. The Norse were well armed with iron weapons and shields, while the Skrælings used bows, arrows, and stone-tipped weapons. The conflict escalated to a point where the Norse felt it was no longer safe to remain in Vinland. Despite their initial success in establishing a settlement and their appreciation for the land's resources, the constant threat of attack and the difficulties in maintaining peaceful relations with the Skrælings ultimately led to their decision to abandon Vinland. The Norse settlement in Vinland was short-lived, lasting only a few years. The continuous skirmishes with the Skrælings, coupled with the logistical challenges of maintaining a distant outpost far from Greenland and Iceland, made it impractical to sustain settlement. The sagas indicate that the Norse recognized the futility of trying to maintain their presence in Vinland under such hostile conditions. As a result, they decided to return to Greenland and focus on their established settlements there. The exact timeline of their withdrawal is not precisely known, but it is clear that the challenges they faced from the native populations played a significant role in their decision to abandon Vinland. The legacy of Vinland. Although the Norse presence in North America was brief, their voyages to Vinland left a lasting legacy. The stories of these explorations were preserved in Icelandic sagas, which continue to be passed down through generations. These sagas provide a rare glimpse into early interactions between Europeans and Native Americans, predating Columbus's voyages by almost 500 years. The archaeological discovery of the Norse settlement at Leans Ox Meadows in the 1960s provided concrete evidence that the Viking presence in North America was in fact true. This site, now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, includes the remains of Norse buildings, tools, and other artifacts, confirming the historical accounts of the sagas. The settlement's layout and construction techniques are consistent with those found in Greenland and Iceland, further validating the connection to the Norse explorers. Understanding the encounters. The encounters between the Norse and the Native Americans were complex and multifaceted. They involved both peaceful exchanges and violent clashes. Shaped by cultural misunderstandings and differing worldviews, for the Norse, Vinland represented an opportunity for expansion and exploitation of new resources. For the Native Americans, the arrival of Norse was an unprecedented event that disrupted their way of life and posed new threats. From the perspective of the Native Americans, the Norse were foreign intruders with unfamiliar customs and technologies. The sagas suggest that the Skrælings were initially open to trade but quickly became wary of the Norse intentions. The violent skirmishes that ensued illustrate the challenges of early cross-cultural encounters and the potential for conflict when different societies came into contact. The story of the Norse in Vinland highlights the broader themes of exploration, colonization, and the interactions between different cultures. It is a reminder that the history of human exploration is not just a story of discovery and adventure, but also one of conflict, adaptation, and other things. The Norse voyages to North America were part of a larger pattern of Viking exploration that spanned the North Atlantic and beyond, including voyages to the British Isles, Iceland, Greenland, and even to the heart of continental Europe. This historical episode also challenges the traditional narrative of the European exploration being initiated by figures like Christopher Columbus. The Norse were the first known Europeans to reach North America, demonstrating that transatlantic voyages were possible long before the age of exploration. Their experiences in Vinland provide valuable insights into the capabilities and limitations of early seafaring societies. Learning about the early encounters between Vikings and Native Americans enriches our understanding of history and human connection. It also shows that long before the establishment of lasting European colonies in America, there were already instances of contact and exchange between different peoples across the Atlantic. These encounters, although brief, had significant impacts on both the Norse and the Native Americans. The story of Vinland invites us to reflect on the nature of exploration and consequences of cultural encounters, and highlights the resilience and adaptability of human societies, as well as the potential for both cooperation and conflict. And by studying these early interactions, we gain a deeper appreciation for the complexities of our shared history and diverse experiences that have shaped the world in which we live today. The first recorded encounter between Vikings and Native Americans was approximately the year 1000 AD, and it's a fascinating and significant event in world history. The Norse voyages to Vinland, led by Leif Erikson, marked the earliest known European exploration to North America, and the interactions between the North and the Skrælings were a mix of trade, conflict, ultimately leading to the abandonment of the Norse settlement. The legacy of the Norse in Vinland remains a testament to the spirit of exploration and enduring connections between people across time and space. Until I see you next time, God bless.